Now it
Thank
is.
you. Good catch, Amy. I don't have the ability as a co-host to make, to share, Brett. That might have to be you, Cliff.
Okay. Okay. I'm looking.
If you just go over Brett's name, right next to the mute with the 3 dots, it should be under that drop-down menu.
I don't have that. Should just
Cliff, you could also make Noelle the host rather than co-host, and she could take care of that for you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, Brett, you should be all set.
Okay, great. Let's go to this here. Screen 1. Nope. All right, we got the right thing. Can everyone see that?
Sure, it might be helpful. I mean, I'm holding a hard copy. It might be helpful if you would enlarge it a little. There you go.
How about that?
Okay.
So if you would like me to go through this, I'm happy to do that. The general comments at the start here, I addressed in more detail throughout the rest of the comments. This is more of a summary, so I thought we might just skip straight to the main comments because they'll be addressed accordingly. We did provide a revised as-built construction record plan, a stormwater management report as-built addendum, and a copy of the previously approved stormwater management report for comparative purposes, and some aerial imagery. They're the supporting documents that we sent in, as Cliff mentioned earlier. And comment 1 is, as noted above, table 5.4, which provides the calculations demonstrating compliance with DEP's required TSS removal, was not included within the submitted materials. With a follow-up comment by the peer reviewer, it is recommended that the commission request the applicant's engineer provide a copy of table 5.4 so that the TSS removal calculation can be confirmed. So our response to that is we submitted a TSS removal calculation using the TSS calculator spreadsheet provided by mass.gov. A copy of that was also included in the appendix of the stormwater management report as built addendum that we provided. And the table 5.4 was previously found in the previously approved report on page 154. So I'm not sure if everyone can still see my screen. I don't think we put the there's the TSS there. So there's this spreadsheet from mass.gov, which gets us over 80%, which is the requirement. These are the parameters that were installed. There's deep subminority catch basins, sediment forebays, and infiltration basin.
So Brad, I think what I'm going to do, I think I would like to go through this because I think what I was going to say is that question number 1 has been addressed.
Okay, good.
So I understand this information has been disseminated to the commission.
Okay.
Everyone's had an opportunity to do that. So my
Fantastic.
goal here was to try to get through the whole document. So if we go to the second question in your response, it says it's your understanding that design storm events larger than water quality storm 2-year and above need only meet peak discharge parameters equal to or less than pre-development conditions. I need Frank to verify that when he responds, because you're saying that the as-built basin meets the required recharge and water quality storage volumes. So I think the volume is probably there. I'm not sure about the recharge. Because further in number 3, you haven't modeled infiltration. So you're saying that it's conservative, but in item 2, you're saying you're only have to model up to the 2-year storm. So I'm going to ask Frank to just take a look at that. That's why he's doing the peer review for us. So if we go to number 3, we talked about the waiver that was granted for the 1-foot freeboard. That was in fact granted. The situation here, and maybe Brett, you may not be familiar with it. The original proposal was to construct another basin. There was already a basin that, as it turns out, was oversized and underutilized. And rather than create another whole basin, we asked the engineer to investigate combining the existing structure with the new volume that would be created because of the new development. So that's kind of how this thing came about. And in exchange for that, we did grant that waiver.
Great.
So
That's great.
yeah, because that kind of gets into item number 4, where your 100-year flood storage, the elevation is on the spillway. And
Yep.
and so previously, that waiver was granted. You know, what was built wasn't what was permitted, but your calculations have demonstrated to us that that's acceptable.
Correct. Yeah.
So Frank, are you getting this?
Yep. And if I have a few minutes at the end, I went through the letter. I did review the plans. I didn't get through all the drainage calculation stuff. So I wanted to reserve the right to confirm that. But I'm pretty much on board with what you said so far.
Okay.
I wasn't aware that the waiver was granted. If it is, then again, I don't think there's a problem. We just talked about the spillway. I think that makes sense based upon the waiver and what they've done. I do want to confirm the calculation to make sure that they're correct. But again, I would agree with your initial comments. Most of the stuff's here, a little bit of clarification and a few more details, and we'll be all set.
Right, and that's what we're going to ask you to do in your final review, because I think there's probably only going to be one more. So I think we've addressed the freeboard issue. Brett, I think
Great.
you'll be satisfied with that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, Frank.
So now we get into we're talking about the slope on the pipes. From an engineering standpoint, it seems fine to the commission. We're going to just ask Frank to take a look at that to verify our thought processes there. And again, we go down to 6. The perforated pipe does not appear to have been included in the design of the basin. The elevation of the perforated pipe is above the required recharge and stormwater volume. The intent is to assist with drain down during larger storm events. The pipe has been included in the as-built, and so we're going to ask Frank to verify that. It's something we won't need to do here, but so we're making good progress.
Okay.
That's
Great.
because the issues have been addressed.
Great.
Okay. There is an interesting thing in item 8. The BSC suggested that the commission ask you folks to provide clarification as the need for the retaining wall and to confirm that it does not affect the stormwater system. And, you know, the comment is that it does not provide any specific function. And so I guess I get back to the question, why was it constructed? What was the need for that? It wasn't part of the permitted structure. What would be, and what would you estimate the function for that? Is it that the internal slopes were too steep and they felt the need to build the wall to provide the capacity? Can you shed a little light on that?
I personally have no idea, but my best guess would be that those rocks were laying around and that's the best place to put them instead of paying money to take them off site. You know, if you got leftover boulders from a retaining wall or some sort of structure on site, that would have been my guess, just to save cost, because that's the perfect place to put it, because it's not going to impact how your basin performs, and it's going to only increase some stability if you got some embankment behind those rocks. So that would be my guess. Byron can maybe shed some more light on it. I wasn't privy to the construction period, but that's typically when I see boulders like that turn up, you know, out of nowhere. That's usually the reason, from my experience.
Yeah, normally what we want is we want an internal slope that can be vegetated. It seems a vertical structure inside a basin like that, you know, might lend itself to potential erosion down the road. I thought maybe Mr. Andrews could shed some light on why that was built and what its function was.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not sure about the history of why that was installed. And I wasn't involved with the engineering of it, so I don't know if there was any engineering requirement for it. I think it's probably like Brett said, that materials were available, and so they used what was there.
Yep. That's why we have the amendment process, so that these kinds of things can be addressed without having something constructed that was not permitted. However, you know, we're going to ask that Frank also take a look at that to make sure that it does not impede in any way, shape, or form the functionality of the basin. However, your calculations seem to demonstrate it doesn't. So we'll just ask Frank to take a peek at that.
Yep.
And then the final one, again, item number 9, we're going to suggest that, you know, Frank also just take a look at that one. And I think that's it. Your TSS removal meets the performance standards. Well, one of the reasons why we wanted to eliminate the second basin in its entirety was that there was a stand of magnificent white oaks, probably 100 to 150 years old. And we were doing everything we could to preserve them. And I didn't notice them when I was out there. So we'll probably take another look, because this permit will allow you to get a certificate of compliance. But I think that's it. Does anybody on the commission have any other questions or observations or comments?
Mr. Chairman, I was just wondering if on that wall, was there a building permit on that?
What's the height of the wall, Brett?
I think it's quite shallow. Let me share the screen here and get up a are you guys seeing aerial view, or are you still seeing a letter?
Still see the letter.
Okay.
No, we've got the letter still.
Okay.
I think you have to go a couple
Stop
more
that.
pages.
Yep. I was actually trying to get the near map. I've got the near map open, so I was going to share that. Where's my internet? Here we go. How about now?
Okay, there it is. Okay.
So I've got the panorama here. I'm trying to, like you can see, it's very small. It's minor. It's just like dumped boulders, you know what I mean, at the bottom of the slope. So it's not even really providing any like retaining, I don't believe. If we switch around the angles here. So it's certainly not in need of a structural design or any sort of permit.
Sure, that would be 4 feet.
Okay.
Yep.
It's interesting because if somebody just placed boulders in there, so your calculations for volume accounted for the displacement of those rocks, right?
Yes, the topo picks those up, yeah.
Okay.
So Cliff, if I can just spend 2 minutes.
Sure.
One, I was impressed that the quality of the graphics, the site plan was actually much clearer, easier to understand than the original one. The information appears to be provided, like I said earlier. I just want to go through the calculations to make sure that, yeah, they're consistent, but I don't have any doubt that they will not be. There were some items that, again, I think you responded, the commission would have to make answer on the waiver is something that was already approved. The spot grades were greatly appreciated. It helped clarify a couple of the questions we had. And then this I'm going to get from the original approval stormwater report. One of the questions I had was, there's a table that shows, here's the pre-development peak flow rates, here's the as-built peak flow rates. And while I'm presuming these are going to be the same, if there was a substantially different approved peak flow rate, that might be something we might want to talk about. But that was the only item that I had any questions about at all. And I'll go back to and I'll verify the items you noted. So I think this one looks pretty straightforward.
Okay.
Thanks, Frank.
I think this is good. So are there any other questions from the commission?
Mr. Chair, that stand of White Oaks, I kind of remember that in the discussions back when this process or this project was permitted. And I thought the applicant had assured us that they were going to basically, they didn't guarantee it, I don't think, but that they were going to make a serious effort to retain those. Is it possible that Brett, in his video footage that he did of the site recently, has a shot that would capture that area? Can you describe where on the plan it was, Mr. Chair? I don't exactly remember in the layout.
It would be to the northwest of the basin.
All right. Can everyone see my screen? Let's check the let's get this back to true north here, and go vertical. So if someone can point me the direction of where they were, we can look back through the timeline.
They actually kind of look like right around where the
Cul-de-sac is?
further northeast building is.
Around this region?
Well, possibly, but they might also be right where the building is. I know all the trees were tagged prior to construction, and during some of the site clearing, they were still in place, but.
Well, yeah, they're all right there now, right?
So there we are pre-construction. Then they cleared to there. So yeah, I'm sorry. I can't verify that one way or the other.
If I may, I know Ann Matthews and I went out there several times when prior to the silt fence and then after the silt fence, and they did a good job of wrapping trees, anything close to the perimeter to try and preserve. And I know they called us out maybe 2 or 3 times during construction of trees that were very close to the perimeter and kind of peering over the homes and looking unsafe. And so I know we had to go out to verify whether or not it was a safety issue or not. So, I mean, from my perspective, I thought they did a really good job of trying their best to save as much as possible along that perimeter there.
Okay. Okay.
This is Byron Andrews. I apologize to interrupt. I have another meeting at 7:30, so I'm going to have to leave, but I think Brett can answer any questions not associated with the historical, aspect of the project.
Yep.
Okay, I don't think that'll be a problem. What we'll do is, I know that Frank is going to continue his review on this, and I know there's probably not a whole lot of effort remaining to wrap this up. But because this is an interesting filing, it's a full notice of intent filing for an after the fact construction.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah,
a quick question. So the waiver was granted on the previous filing, correct?
the waiver was granted for the construction of the basin.
Of the originally designed basin.
Well,
The waiver
remember,
wasn't granted on this basin, was it?
what happened was this basin was not what we permitted,
Correct.
but the
So
basin,
does the waiver apply to this basin?
my understanding is that what we're doing is we are investigating whether the as-built basin substantially conforms to the basin that was permitted. And it appears it does. The basin that was permitted had a waiver for the 100-foot, for the 100-year storm freeboard.
I don't think that the waiver should apply to the basin that wasn't built. Because this isn't the basin that we permitted.
Well,
It's my opinion.
okay, but Frank's reviewing it. Remember what we did is at our request, they combined the 2 basins. The one that was originally constructed for phase 1, and then rather than a whole new basin for phase 2, we combined them. And it's at that point we granted the waiver. So technically,
I understand that, but we granted a waiver on something that wasn't built.
right. But the principle is that we combined 2 phase 1 and phase 2 into 1 basin. And that's what's happened here. It's still phase 1 and phase 2 going into 1 basin.
And it's still not what was originally permitted.
And that's the purpose of the hearing, to determine whether or not it, meets the performance standards. The information that we have shows that at the 100-year flood, plain, the 100-year storm, the elevation is on the overflow spillway. I mean, is that an issue from my perspective? We issued an original permit granting that waiver in exchange for minimizing the amount of land that had to be altered. This isn't exactly what was permitted, but it seems the functionality is similar. So,
Mr. Chair, just to be clear, if it did not, after our peer review is done, it's all the analysis of the drainage calcs and so forth. If it did not appear that it did meet the required parameters from the original and perform that way, then we could reject it based on the fact, the final completion. as being satisfactory based on the fact that it didn't meet that. And they would either have to redo it to meet it and do it as originally designed, or somehow modify the functionality so it met the criteria that we needed to have, even though it was not the original design, built as originally designed. Because I kind of agree with the with the co-chair, with the vice chair, that it irritates me, to say the least, that a contractor would not throw anything on the people that are providing the information tonight. But that the contractor that built this and came to us and asked for plans didn't bother to build it as designed, when that's something qualified contractors should do, or recognize the imperative that they had to let us know if they had changed it and put in the necessary amendments, amended application. And to let them just say, okay, well, it wasn't the same thing, but it still functions. And so just, grant us any waivers that were there before. I kind of balk at wanting to do that. But the alternative is, if the alternative is that it's going to be totally disruptive to say, no, you got to redo it the way it was originally designed, and that causes environmental disruption that exceeds the benefit, then obviously it's not probably going to be worth doing that.
If I could maybe just add a couple words, Mike and the rest of the commission. What I would look at, and we didn't have the original drainage calculation, hydraulic calculations. So the hydraulic parameters to look at is, do for each of the design storms, do the flows plus or minus maybe a tenth or something like that. Are the flows coming out the same as what were approved? Or are they lower? It's better if the flows, the discharges are lower. Same thing for the water elevations. If in fact the original basin had an overflow at elevation 271, I think it was, or whatever the exact, and it's now 279 or 270.9 or something like, it's around the same. Even though the shape of the basin, even though the outlets were not exactly as approved, if I got the same hydraulic characteristics leaving the basin, the water in the basin, then I'd say it wouldn't be the same, but it was acting hydraulically, or the results acting hydraulically were equivalent to the original basin. That's sort of what I'd look at. And the little retaining wall, that doesn't be a big thing. It was not, it couldn't tell what that was in the original plan. You couldn't sort of get what the elevations of that were. So that's what I'm going to be looking at again to verify the statements. If in fact there was an overflow previously of a tenth of a foot or 3/10 of a foot in that spillway, and it's about the same elevation, I would suggest that if that waiver was granted before, then the same reasons would probably apply then. But again, I want to make sure that those numbers are correct before I say that. Did that confuse you or enlighten you?
Nope. That's pretty much what my thought processes was. So look, we have another hearing. So as usual, we're up against it. What I'd like to do is continue this to the first meeting in September. This is a project that, again, it's a retroactive project. It'll give Frank a little wiggle room. He's doing a lot of peer review for us. We have an abundance of hearings to review. So I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of September 8th at 7 o'clock.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Okay, because the new advice is that we have to poll the members. So Neil,
Yes.
Noel,
Aye.
Michael,
Yes.
and Ariane.
Aye.
Okay, very unanimous vote. All right, thank you. We'll look forward to seeing Frank's comments. But I suspect that they're going to be pretty good.
Mr.
Thanks,
Chair, did you pick a
everyone.
time for the meeting on the first week in September, or first meeting in September? Did you pick?
7.
Oh, 7, okay, I didn't hear it, thanks.
It's September 8th, isn't it?
Yeah, but then at the time of the meeting, I didn't hear, the
7
hearing,
o'clock.
I didn't hear. 7 o'clock, okay, thanks.
Okay, we'll proceed to the next hearing. Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold continuations of public hearings in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, on the notice of intent for the proposal to construct a parking lot, site grading, and stormwater management system within the 100-foot buffer zone to bordering vegetated wetlands associated with the construction of 110 townhouse dwellings in 36 buildings for the proposed residential subdivision entitled Bungay Brook Estates, located at Assessor's Map 93, parcel 2230 Locust Street. James L. Monte, Land Design Collaborative, Westboro, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Steve Vincasa, Elite Home Builders, Westboro. The continuations will be held via the online Zoom option on Wednesday, August 11th at 7:30. Okay, so once again, I have I'm going to work off of BSC's August 4th peer review letter, and we'll run through it so that we can highlight the things that the commission would like the applicant to look at. Frank, feel free to jump in at any point. We have someone here from the, okay,
Yep.
James is here.
Yep.
James, do you have a copy of that letter?
I do, yes,
Okay, would you put that, I think you just saw the format we just used.
yes, I can, if you want me to share the screen, I can do that.
That would be awesome.
All right. All right.
Okay, good. So if we go further down on the,
Actually, I gotta go backwards.
oh,
This start at the beginning and then you can decide which comments you want to focus on.
okay, you're right where we want to be. Okay, it's recommended that the applicant provide a more detailed description of the stormwater management system and how it's intended to work, which aspects of it are low impact development, what is being counted for pretreatment, whether these basins are going to be rain gardens or infiltration or detention. That is critical information. Additionally, the commission's going to direct you to look at our regulations and to make sure that these structures will have appropriate freeboard for the 100-year storm, that they will be sized so that there's no additional runoff at the 25-year storm, and to account for frozen ground conditions.
Great. Mr. Commissioner, I don't know if you received a copy of our initial response to this letter. We just issued it today around noontime. I know it was short notice, and we did start to respond to these comments, and a lot of the responses were basically, we will provide the necessary information, and obviously we'll prepare a set of revised site plans to address these comments as well.
Okay.
So again, I don't know if that letter was distributed or not. We understand it was, last minute. So
we asked for 10 days.
Right. Yeah.
But
no, I understand.
okay. So then if you're prepared to do it, then it's probably a moot point that we're going to go over this. But, I think that you will understand that the commission takes these reports seriously, takes the responses seriously, and always has a little extra to add.
Right.
So if you don't mind, because most of what we're saying is the items that were highlighted in Mr. DiPietro's comment letter are all items that are going to be required information.
Right. I would like to go through the letter if possible, because there are a couple of things we'd like to discuss
Sure.
as well. And I do have Mike Scott, the PE on the project from our office, is on the line as well.
Okay. So if we go to the second one, it addresses the need for additional test pits. I think our regulations state very clearly that there should be 3 test pits per structure. However, if we do 1 per structure and we're finding, 12 feet of sand, then 1 will be sufficient.
Right. Yes, and we understand that, and our response to that was basically we had to stay within the limits of avoiding golfers and an active golf course. So we understand that additional testing is required.
Okay.
So, and if we could if we could do 1, that would be the preference. Because the material proves to be pretty consistent, or very consistent, in the areas that we did test.
Based on the review that we had, yeah, it looked like you had a
Right.
lot of sand and gravel there. So, yeah, roof runoff, recharge of roof runoff is a requirement. The plans will have to reflect that. BSC highlights the need for details for all the stormwater management structures. That's just standard good engineering practice.
Yep.
I'm not sure what your idea is for maintenance. If these are LID structures, you might be contemplating the fact that they'll just be like sunken lawns and just mowed as part of the regular maintenance.
Right.
I mean, I know the planning board might have a question about whether or not fencing will be required. That's not our issue.
Right.
We'll need you to determine, what kind of maintenance you're going to be performing there.
Right.
I mean, he got into a couple of things that are clearly planning board issues.
Correct. Yeah.
Thank goodness we don't have to get involved in sidewalks and paths. We don't need that. So number 9.
Yeah.
BSC is suggesting spot grades. The importance of the spot grades cannot be overestimated.
Right.
If you saw our last hearing, they were very instrumental in helping assist that review.
Yeah, understood, and we will provide them. There was one question, I think, on this one, and Mike, if you're on, just feel free to jump in. But I think we were trying to get clarification on the specific area that was either too steep or too flat. So I don't know if we want to get into this type of detail now, or if we could kind of handle some of these questions offline.
Maybe if I could sort of interject. So I did get a copy of the letter today. I read through it. And in general, I think it's as James has noted, that they're committing to provide a bunch of information. When we were looking at the drainage patterns, there were some areas that we would need clarification with a couple spot grades that, gee, is the water in a little hole here? Are we going to have ponding right over here? Or is the water going to be able to go where it's supposed to be going to one of those, sort of LID areas and stuff like that? We certainly could mock up a plan. I have a plan that's pretty badly mocked up, but I could clarify that a little bit and send something out if you needed some more information, which is what you noted in your letter. That wouldn't be a big to do.
Yeah, send out to me and Frank.
There were a couple of locations where it looked like there was a low area. I don't have the plan in front of me, but my recollection is the access, emergency access going out when you're getting near somewhere in, maybe right in that area as you're getting near the buildings. There's a little low spot, a little bit farther right down, right in that area there.
Okay.
And looking at the grades, I wasn't sure if there was a low spot on either side of that. It appeared to be. And how would that water drain? You've got to, if you go down to the bottom of the page, I think that's to the south, there's a one of those sort of infiltration LID areas. If you go to the north, heading back towards the lake there, or the reservoir, I thought there was some low areas in there that may be ponding water. Wasn't sure you wanted to have that behind the houses. So, but I can mark those areas up on a plan and make it more, like I said, more readable than my notes all over the site plan than when we did the review.
Okay,
Thank you.
so
Back to the
the
letter.
next couple of items, curbing, guardrails, thank goodness, that's not for us. You are moving the dog park away.
Well, we're actually taking it off the plan at this point, so we're eliminating that completely at this point.
Strong comment.
Okay, good. BSC also talked about demolition. I guess there's going to be some, along with the site preparation, there are asphalt pathways and small structures. I think trees may have to be cut. We'll need to know what the disposition of that material is. Essentially, you're on a plateau. We would hate to think that some of that material would just make its way down to the bottom at the toe of the slope where the wetlands are. So, let's see. You know, we have a couple of housekeeping items. Again, that's not an issue that we're concerned with. Frank also talked about municipal water connection. I was unclear on that one. The municipal water, it's not coming from Locust Street.
Which comment are you referring to?
Oh, okay. I'm
Oh,
looking
okay, number 16.
at 16, yes.
Yeah.
Are you, where are you proposing to get your water from?
It is from Locust Street,
Okay, so then maybe
and it'll be looped.
in connection to municipal, that the connection to municipal, that might be sewer.
There was a letter from Dom DiMartino
Okay,
that talked about some of these, and we were just sort of following up on that.
Right.
well, you know, Don always likes his loops. This might have something to do with a water loop.
Yeah, this is Mike Scott. The water system is going to be connected between Locust and the end of Reservoir. That's the proposal
Okay,
per Mr. Martino. DiMartino, sorry.
okay.
Yeah, 17, we'll provide an exhibit plan to address that.
Right, okay. Thank you. Beat me to the punch. We talked about the soil testing.
Right.
You know, if the soils are consistent, each one of the structures should have at least one. And we did talk earlier about the frozen ground conditions and the Cornell rainfall data. Or,
Right.
you know, we have the ability to waive that, and if you're going to use the NOAA, which is what I guess the new stormwater management, the DEP stormwater regs are going to be. I guess it's the NOAA 14. So we'll need clarification on that.
My only comment on that, Cliff, is I think we would strongly recommend that you use one or the other and don't mix and match between Cornell and NOAA 14.
Okay. All right. I mean, that's a reasonable request.
I think comments 18, 19, and 20, we basically acknowledge and will provide more info showing compliance with the regs.
Okay.
My associate, very capable and expert environmental scientist, Matt Burns, is here. So if you got questions on that, I'm going to dump them on Matt.
Thanks, Frank.
All right, and we have Karen Skinner-Catrone, I believe, is on the line as well. She's the wetland specialist. I know she's in a place that she may have poor connection, but she may be able to address some of these as well.
I'm here. I can't get my screen up, but I can hear you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Karen. So
what we're gonna need to do is actually quantify the amount of activity, even temporary activity, that's going to take place in the riparian zone. So
right.
Yeah,
So
ahead.
sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, I apologize. Essentially, I think what happened is that the riverfront area was sort of looked at as buffer zone, I think, as opposed to a resource area itself.
Right, the riverfront area, there was the form was filled out incorrectly. We showed, I think, 100% riverfront alteration. There's 0% riverfront alteration.
That's different.
So that's I think that was part of the confusion and probably the result of some of these comments. So we apologize for that. We should have caught that before it went out. But that probably addresses some of these comments.
Probably.
So, and the only thing we did have in the riverfront was basically just putting a fence around the dog park, but we're removing that completely at this point. So we're not touching the riverfront at all.
Okay, that was my impression
Yeah.
of the,
So we
of the
apologize
project.
for that.
No,
Yeah.
but that's great. Okay.
So I want to get to item number 3, but before I do that, let's look at item number 4. You're showing 1,670 square feet of alteration in the 25 to 50 limited disturbance zone. We're going to ask you to see if you can eliminate that entirely. And if you can't, you're going to have to provide some sort of mitigation for that.
Okay, for which area? The 1670 square feet?
1670, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, not being able to determine exactly where it is, it might be something as simple as moving a structure or
Right.
grading, but we're going to ask you to do that.
Okay.
Now, this irrigation pond, this is an interesting conundrum. The original permit was for a lined basin that would be used for irrigation, so that during periods of high rainfall, water could be stored rather than pump it out of the ground, because the golf course needs to water
Right.
in the summer. Now you're going to leave that pond in place, but it's still going to be lined.
Right. It wouldn't exist if it wasn't lined.
Yeah.
The
Okay,
soils on site.
And so the purpose of this is going to be, aesthetic, or are you going to use it for irrigation, continue to use it for irrigation, or?
Yeah, that's basically the plan. Those two items, aesthetics and irrigation at this point. Obviously, we're not going to need as much irrigation as a golf course, but for some of the common areas and areas around the townhomes, we like to utilize that for irrigation as well. So basically, continue to use it the way it's been used.
Okay, so when you address that, question 3, please include a little narrative on that for us.
Sure. Yep, we can do that.
And James, I'd recommend a comparative analysis of the amount of water use currently versus proposed. That might be interesting. Might be interesting to see that.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
So if I could just question regarding comment number 1, now that we have straightened out the fact that there is no riverfront alteration, does that comment go away at this point regarding?
Not entirely, because it also addresses impacts or work in buffer zones. And so I think the nature of the comment was, it appears that your narrative suggests that the only wildlife habitat concern is whether or not there's rare species there. But of course, wildlife is one of the statutory interests. So all of your work should be evaluated for potential impacts to wildlife habitat values. So I think it's more like make sure that that's part of the discussion of how you're thinking about project-wide, what the impacts are.
Yeah, we can provide something on that.
Yeah, what might be helpful is, kind of like a 100 scale plan that highlights your activity, has the buffer zones included on it. Because you're not proposing any activity in the 25-foot no disturb zone.
Right.
Really, in the 25 to 50 for a project of this magnitude, 1,670 square feet is
right.
Something you should be able to accommodate. But the rest of the buffer zone, if you could show that,
Yep.
you can see what the existing characteristics on the site are. I think that's what Matt's getting at.
Yeah.
Yep. And we can just, so you know, I mean, any of the tree line, the perimeter tree line, we're not touching at all. We're not cutting any of the trees down. So any work that's within the 100-foot buffer zone on site is within the limits of the existing golf course, the fairway or greens or, sand traps, anything like that. So yeah, we have very, like, as you mentioned, we have very minimal impacts to the buffer zone. And then we've designed the project that way to bring everything, inward.
Okay. Anybody in the commission, any questions?
Mr. Chair, just double checking, what were the plans originally? I thought when we were talking about the issues around the parking lot near the clubhouse, that there was some comment made about that actual structure. And when we were on the sidewalk, I don't remember, or we walked right by it several times. Is that building staying as part of the plan, right with the parking area? Or is that being changed, or has it changed since you guys last came to us?
No, the plan is to maintain the clubhouse, the existing home and the maintenance shed.
Okay. And the parking area moving or not moving in the notes with the abutters comments and so forth from the minutes of one of our meetings, I noted that it looked like the parking area was going to stay, but there was going to be work done around the edges of it. And yet near the end of it, it looked like the commission was asking for some tightening up and maybe allowing a movement of some of the parking. Has that been addressed in this back and forth with letters?
I don't know if that
It's not
specifically
addressed
came
in
up.
the letter.
Right.
It's definitely a comment that we had. I think we referred to straightening out that road a little bit, which would allow us to shift the parking area slightly to the east, which would be
Right.
further away from the top of the slope. So we haven't forgotten that. It's not in Frank's letter, but
Okay.
it's on our list.
We haven't forgotten it either, and we will look at that for sure. And we did agree to add additional vegetation along that perimeter as well. So
It's good you've addressed the dog park issue, because I think that would have been doggone pain in the butt. But anyway,
Yep.
it's good that that's gone. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so we have another hearing coming up right now. There is some work to be done here. So I'm going to suggest, like our previous hearing, we go to September 8th. I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of September 8th at 7:25.
So moved.
Second,
Okay, discussion. All in favor? Neil,
yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Joelle,
Aye.
Mary Ann.
I,
Okay, a unanimous vote. Thank you very much.
what's Sean Wade's hand doing up?
Oh,
I actually did have a quick question, if that was okay.
No.
No. Well, while you guys were talking about tree clearing, I wasn't sure if I don't know if it's been said out loud or it's just suggested that the utilities would be brought in through the cemetery, gas or sewer. Would that be a separate filing altogether? And would that be with conservation, considering it will be touching conservation land?
If you want me to address that, or
Yeah, actually, we've closed the hearing, but let's just address the logistics of this. We were told that the water line is going to loop between Locust Street and
Reservoir, yep.
Reservoir Drive. So that won't require a filing.
Right.
Gas, I have no idea where the gas is, or if gas is even going to be, the utility is even going to be provided here.
Glenn say he's coming to the meeting?
Yes, well, the last I heard said yes, he was available.
So the sewer
Just
line,
a,
obviously,
confirmation.
the sewer line is going to be off-site, and if there are jurisdictional areas, it will definitely require a filing. And I think we highlighted that at the very first meeting.
Thank you, Cliff.
if I could just ask one logistical question as far as responding to comments.
Sure.
I know we have a lot of work to do, obviously. Would the commission be willing to have us reach out to BSC directly to work through some of these comments?
No, we don't do that because this is a public review process, and all of the comments are discussed at the hearing. If information is directly swapped between applicants and our peer reviewer, it could be misconstrued as the peer reviewer working too closely with the applicant. So it's our policy to never do that.
Understood.
We get asked all the time.
Yeah, it just makes things go smoothly. We
A
found
little
anyway.
faster, I
Yeah.
understand.
Yep. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. So, all right. It is 8 o'clock. I am going to dispense with the reading of the advertisement. And I'm going to wing it. The Bellingham Conservation, and I'm going to combine both of these. No, wait a minute. I can't do that. Okay. The Bellingham Conservation Commission is holding a continuation of public hearing for construction of the new access road, improvements to existing roadways, construction of stormwater management facilities, utility improvements, including a pump station. That hearing is open. We have pretty much addressed all of the issues. I don't think there are any issues remaining. Frank, am I correct in that?
I would agree. I mean, there's obviously some decisions that the commission and then the planning board has to make on waivers and other things. I think some items that you probably want to include in an approval condition, but going through the almost everything was addressed. I think we don't have any issues on the one item I'll bring up. And since it's on the edge of the connector and the red mill, and that's Infiltration Basin 2. There, I think the commission needs to make a determination whether or not there's a portion of that basin that's within the 25-foot,
Okay,
the 50-foot. Anyway,
Frank, that's for the red mill portion.
okay,
I'm thinking
that's
about the
fine.
access roadway.
Then no, everything's been addressed on that.
Okay, so we're going to continue. We're going to continue this hearing when we continue the red mill portion. So what I'm going to do is open up the continuation for the red mill roadway utilities stormwater management for the subdivision on the Charles. Now, in keeping with what we've been doing, I have Allen Engineering's letter of the 2nd, and I'd like to just run through this as we
Do I
have
to
been
recuse
doing.
myself?
Arian's recusing herself.
Yep,
Thank you.
that's what I said.
Mark, would you be amenable to putting this letter up for us?
Absolutely. I'll hit screen share here.
We don't have air conditioning here.
Let's see. Okay. So that letter was the July 2nd, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, sir.
I had just about everything queued up except for that letter.
Oh yeah, I see your infiltration basin. Yeah.
Let's see here, 7.2 responses.
It might be at the top of this section of things. If I remember, those were attached to the July 2nd letter.
Yeah, I think Frank's letter kind of incorporates it, but I do have the original right here.
There you go.
Yep.
So Mark, we're hoping to make short work of this and
Sure.
just highlight a couple of issues for you and for Frank.
Mhm.
So if we move to the bottom of page 1, right? Okay.
Mhm.
I believe these are planning board waivers. So that's between you and the planning board. We don't have to get
Correct.
involved in that. Thank
Yep.
goodness.
Exactly.
And so Frank will be, if he's still working for the planning board on this one, that's good. If we go to page 2, and this is one where we might have a little bit of confusion.
Mhm.
This is the one Frank was just talking about, Basin 2. In the 25-foot no disturb zone.
Yep.
I know we talked about having to try to move that out of there.
Mhm.
But what you're saying is that it's the elevation required for the outlet. Any
Correct.
chance you could pull that up for us?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yep. So I'm going to zoom in here and reading Frank's letter of today. We did focus on that in the office today, and we can kind of speak very, hopefully very intelligently to it. The area in which we're talking here, and I can use my draw tool. I'm going to show you exactly where that catch basin starts. So there is a pair of catch basins here and here that go into this basin, into the infiltration basin, and then out the outlet. That's the sort of critical path. And the elevation is driven by the end of Mill Street. So the end of Mill Street is set at about an elevation of about 232-ish. And in order to get those catch basins to drain, we need pipes to get into this basin to an elevation of about 222. So we with the local bylaws, with the 1 foot of freeboard above the 100-year storm event, we are at an elevation of about 224 to outlet that pipe. So the elevation at this no disturb line, and I'll put another sort of yellow line in, the no disturb line here in yellow, that elevation, the height of it is at about 227 to 228. So it's about 3-4 feet higher than we need to drain the catch basins at the end of Mill Street. And that's the reason why we're asking for this, and I'll use a third color just because we can, to highlight the area. There's no structures, it's just a matter of riprap, the toe end of the riprap and the just where the flared end ends here, just so we can grade that back and catch that. And again, like I say, it's all elevation driven, just so we can catch the catch basins at the end of Mill Street.
So it's not a volumetric problem, because my
No.
initial thought was, we could cut more into the hill and create a little additional volume, and that might allow you to pull that back.
Yeah, definitely not at all, Cliff. It's in fact, in reviewing the hydrology this morning, the 2 and the 10 and the 25-year storm events, there's no water leaving the basin because of the local bylaws that require that foot of freeboard above the 100-year storm event. So the only dribble that comes out of this basin is during the 100-year storm event, and it's at 1 cubic foot per second. So there's not much coming out of it to begin with. And if you kind of follow the science, if you will, the infiltration rates that DEP allows are very, very conservative. So I highly unlikely foresee any water leaving this basin. But like we say, in order for an elevation to get caught, it's within that 25-foot zone. I'll even use a fourth color here to sort of show you where, I don't know if you, from the site walk, if you recall, the access up into the pit is in this location here. If you look at the end of the sort of paved area, there's a gravel path that meanders down to the railroad.
Yep.
And in that area is where we would be proposing to punch through. So it's in an area that's been previously degraded anyway. So we kind of feel as if this small 500 square foot area is necessary to provide a 100-year storm discharge.
Okay. Just one more favor. I keep reaching for my mouse to enlarge that. It's not working. If you could just enlarge that a little bit for me. Okay. Okay, the commission will remember that we did walk down that pathway. So Frank, I'm going to ask you to take a peek at that.
Okay.
To see if this is, I mean, this seems like a fairly logical explanation, but this is Mark. This is the first time we really sat down, the commission and you and Frank, and looked at it and said, okay, why won't it work? Why will it work?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, this is the only other spot other than the 2 wetland crossings that we have any requests to get into that 25-foot no disturb. And again, we would avoid it if we could. If Mill Street were built higher, we would absolutely be able to do that. But unfortunately, we're picking up that end of Mill Street and bringing it back to this location.
Okay. So now we'll look at number 2. It appears, oh, sorry, I'll let you. Yeah. You know, based on what I'm seeing and what Frank's requests are, it looks like you've successfully addressed that. But Frank will, you know, did you say he sent the letter out today?
Yes, it went out about 7 o'clock this morning.
All right, well, Ann was not in the office today. She's not feeling very well.
Mhm.
We had her tested and she's okay, but
Oh, good.
so, yeah, that's why I'm a little bit.
Yeah, so Frank did
Yeah,
put
we had a
together a very
disadvantage.
comprehensive letter and much appreciated. We did get a chance to go through it all day today, and unless you want Frank to make the presentation, I can kind of recap the couple of items that I think are still sort of floating out there that we could address in a final set of plans.
Well, let me keep working through here for my own benefit here. So number 3, you've addressed that issue. The next one's interesting. I don't know if there's a statutory requirement that that plans be updated with DEP, but I know that they need a final plan set. And so I think you're going to do that.
We are, yes.
Okay.
Yep, we've addressed all of their comments, and I think Frank has acknowledged that, and we will be providing that. We actually provided in this letter the new WPA Form 3 adjusted numbers to the commission.
Okay.
And just so you know, Cliff, the response in, I think it might have been the 15th. I can't remember if it was July
Yes.
7th, 2nd or 15th. I think it was July 15th letter.
Yep.
Every one of the DEP comments had a response to it. And the responses seemed reasonable, and it would set up the commission to say, yes, we can check to see that that the DEP folks had their comments responded to. It's about 3 pages in my letter. No, I'm only kidding.
So I think that's what we're looking at next, comments from DEP. And you went through a item by item.
Yes.
And yeah, you taught, I mean, I went through these, you've addressed them all. The proposed replication area is more than twice the area to be lost. That's because of the local bylaw. So that's all good. When we get down to number 6, here's something, Mark, we haven't discussed. Under our regs, it's a 3-year monitoring.
Correct.
Find out that works pretty well. But also, anytime there's restoration, enhancement, or replication, there's bonding. At the turn, I hope I'm not getting it. There's at the end of the monitoring period, the bonds returned to us.
Yeah.
I did speak with Jeff in the field about this in a very cursory fashion, and asked him to start thinking about what might be a good number to bond the activities. So if you would just touch base with him, that's something we'll put in the order.
Yeah, absolutely. And the benefit to this project is with the size and scope of the project, that 3-year monitoring will be well within the project duration. So we hope to get that signed off prior to the last closing.
And okay, so the rest of it in that section looks pretty good. We talked about the Woods Fair versus Woods Good. You said it was a negligible effect on the calculations. Frank will look for that difference. The TSS, it looks like you've provided that information.
We did.
Water quality certification is not required. I mean, I'm going down my list and I've got a check next to all of the items. So from the commission standpoint, it's looking good. So if we get to page 5 now, right at the top, this is something that I'm gonna need Mark and Frank to talk about. Infiltration Basin 7 is not going to be infiltration. It's going to be retention. Okay, so what do we know what the storage capacity of that basin is?
We do, absolutely.
Okay, and so
It will not require any sort of local waiver for frozen ground capacity. It won't require any waiver from 1 foot of freeboard below the outlet, 100-year outlet. It will absolutely drain no matter what at the end of the storm event. It won't be infiltrating and having sort of a sump in the infiltration basin. And all the hydrology that we sent to Frank, he reviewed, and in his letter this morning.
I'm going to rely on Frank to do that because I was a little unclear on how that was going to happen, knowing the amount of ledge that's there.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. I think if you digest his letter from this morning, a lot of this has been reviewed by Frank and sort of given his blessing.
Okay, well, if that's the case, then, you know, well, obviously we'll be taking a look at that. Mm-hmm. We talked about the mount. Oh, you did provide the mounting analyses. I saw those. Mm-hmm. And right below that, there's a bulleted item. Additional hydraulic calculations should be provided to show that the hydrology of the vernal pools won't be adversely impacted. I don't think we're concerned so much about direct surface impacts, but, you know, maybe about I'm thinking aloud. It seemed that those areas were either already in groundwater or were possibly on perched soil.
Correct.
So the concern was if too much materials are removed in the surrounding area, could we interrupt the subsurface hydrological flow? I mean,
yeah, it's something you can monitor in a condition, but due to the fact that we kept all of the activities 50 feet away from it, I don't anticipate any negative impact. If it holds water now, it will likely hold water in the future. I don't see any additional or less water being held there, as it's a function of, you know, rain events and the ledge elevation.
So it's not a bad idea to put monitoring groundwater in those areas while you're doing construction.
Absolutely.
You need a lot of material.
Mm-hmm.
Making notes. All right. That's a good sign for you. Okay, you've adjusted Basin 2. Okay, and the residential lot that was potentially impacted, you've done some grading to prevent any overflow from getting on that lot.
Yeah, so if I can zoom in there to kind of show you what we've done since the last discussion. I'll kind of use the tool again for drawing here. Infiltration Basin 5 is in this location, and what we've done to add to the protection of that area is to add this berm behind these units to make sure that all of the flow will go in the direction that is shown here in the arrows and not get into the backyards of 77 and 76. The invert elevation of the outlet pipe is below the elevation of that berm. And the natural swell that you can see in these contours will bring it down through the wooded area. I did again today, after receiving Frank's letter, just review the hydrology of that pond. And unlike infiltration basin 2 that we just talked about, this basin will infiltrate every storm event, including the 100-year event. So this pipe by design will never see water.
Okay. Okay. So Frank has, well, I guess the letter's out there, so.
Right.
Yeah.
You've looked at it.
The one item I maybe suggested the commission might consider, so if you sort of look at, again, the right-hand side where it says 10-foot gravel drive, there are two lots, 72 and 73. And at the end there, that the basin is above most of the lot. And so, and we've done this in other projects. You might want to consider putting in like an impermeable barrier along that side of the berm so that the water that seeps into the ground there wouldn't, you know, it's a little bit lower as you go again to the right into those lots. That might be something that you might want to take a look at so that water wouldn't be, a spring wouldn't happen during a heavy storm in those backyards.
And we have no problem with that too. That was one of the two items that came up after digesting Frank's letter this morning, that we will add that here in blue to that impervious line or that area. Again, good news is groundwater flow is in, you know, from east to west, but you know, just in the unlikely event that something may bleed through from the bottom of the basin east, we can put this liner here along those lots.
Didn't you have like 12 feet of gravel there?
Yeah, that was beautiful material.
All right. Well, yeah, we don't want to have a situation where people are getting even unlikely, but who knows with the frequency of major storm events now. Who knows? Okay. And I know Frank has repeatedly brought up the viability of some of the lots. I think what we'll do, some of these lots are going to require a lot of care. I think what we'll do is make a general statement in the order that that the number of lots are not guaranteed and are going to be subject to further review.
Absolutely.
You revised the Form 3. Moved all activity except for the crossings outside the inner riparian zone. We already knew, I mean, DEP had talked about eliminating the perennial stream crossing. We knew that that was not going to happen because of the need to have two areas of access and egress. Just a little observation. I know you may not agree, Mark, but this is the type of review that all major projects that we permit undergo. And I think that once we all got on the same page, the project is better for everybody.
Absolutely.
I know sometimes it was a challenge to get there, but you know, I think that we've made great strides, and I think that we've done for the commission. The acid test is if this were to be appealed by disgruntled abutters, would the appeal be upheld? The answer is no. And if they appeal this permit, it will not be upheld. So.
Agree.
And then again, we do the breakdown of the resource areas. I mean, it all looks, you know.
Yeah, to your point, Cliff, I'm just bringing up that table on sheet R2 that we referenced. Although, you know, back and forth with the commission, it, like you say in the end, it's a better product because of it. So we kind of summarize that in tables on sheets R1 and R2, and you can see that, you know, through this process, we've significantly reduced the impacts to all the buffer zones and resource areas.
Right. Well, that's what we try to do. So, I mean, again, everything is, and you just, on page 9, you just referred to table 2.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get into the specificity that resulted in our site walk.
Mm-hmm.
The protocols are there. Jeff from Sage was highly competent, did a good job. I think the commission was a little flexible too when it came to mitigating the 25 to 50, and it was a win-win for the environment.
And if I could, Cliff, if I could just stop you there, I just want to kind of highlight one of those items that came about from the site walk was the relocation of Infiltration Basin 4. So if you recall, the previous basin location was here inside the inner riparian zone. And upon the site walk, it was determined that the new location is better suited to handle that runoff in this location. So identical volumes, just different location.
I think Frank had questioned that about the volumes, but you provide the calculations. He'll review them. Yeah, that site walk, I think, accomplished more than any single hearing that we possibly held.
Agree. I totally agree.
And so I guess we're going to get right to page 11 and the bottom line. And this is one of the things that concerned the commission from the beginning, the commencement of the hearing process. And it was the impacts to the 0 to 50. And you are mitigating them.
Correct.
So, you know, allowing you to do 50,000 square feet of riverfront enrichment and allowing it to count for a buffer zone mitigation, I think put you over the top, but it's a win-win for us because it's the best thing for habitat.
Correct.
So,
I'm just kind of zooming out to those areas. Yeah. Again, this came about on that site walk to kind of show where those areas could be, and we've outlined them here on sheets R1 and R2.
So do we have now we know the general areas, do we have an actual plan set showing the enrichment and mitigation areas?
What we have is Jeff's narrative as to how many plants per square foot. But again, that was item number 2 of 2 at the end of Frank's letter, was we would add a sheet to this overall set in similar fashion to how we mitigate the BVW crossings, how we would be mitigating these enhancement areas, i.e. More upland plantings to just sort of survive in the upland areas that we're replanting. So yeah, we would just basically put narrative to plan and add it to the plan set. Instead of 62 sheets, it'll be 63.
Okay, good. Yeah, because when we get involved in doing this kind of work, plans are necessary.
Mhm.
Even if the person who developed the protocol is present to oversee it, he's going to need plans to look at.
Yeah.
And I think that's pretty much all I had. The appendices, the general notes, the planting lists, the Form 3, it's all here. Mounding. So I'll look forward to seeing Frank's response.
To be
Frank-
fair and to give credit where credit is due, it's Matt Byrne and Frank's response, so.
Agreed. Yes, agreed. I didn't.
Frank, would you like me to, or would it behoove the commission for me to bring up Frank's letter from this morning, or is that something that?
Well, I think what we'd like to do is, we haven't even, the commission hasn't even seen it. I think I'd
Right.
like to distribute it.
Mhm.
And when are you on with the planning board again?
Tomorrow night, but they basically said once the commission is comfortable, then they're comfortable. So we may continue tomorrow night's meeting till the meeting after your next meeting in September.
I think what I'd like to do
Mhm.
is have an opportunity to peruse Frank's letter and see if there are any more outstanding issues. But
Yeah, and please do. What we would think at the fall of this meeting would be, at least on our to-do list, was to provide that additional sheet for the mitigation of the enhancement areas, the upland enhancement areas, and add that impervious barrier to infiltration basin 5. Those are the two plan changes that we foresaw. And we would like to issue that sheet as a final set for both the planning and conservation.
And on my end, there's a couple of items we talked about tonight, so maybe it's an email. I don't think I need to do a letter, but I will look at that drainage for infiltration basin number 2, and just a couple of other things that we mentioned, just to check the numbers again. I've
Sure,
pretty much gone through
absolutely.
it all, but I want to make sure that I've got all that stuff covered.
Absolutely. Yeah, so Frank, before we put, ink to Mylar, if you will, maybe we just have an email back and forth just to confirm that for you.
Okay, that'd be fine.
what we could do is, rather than assemble a whole plan set, Mark, if you could just distribute the 2, and that way we can take a look at them.
Yep.
Before we do the one final massive sheet set.
Yep.
All right. Are there any other questions from the commission? All right. I know what we would like to do, but I don't know if you would agree to it. We would like to go to September 8th because the 25th is really getting jammed up. Would that be, would you be amenable to that?
To September 8th, absolutely.
Okay. If there's no further questions or comments from the commission, I'll entertain a motion to continue both the Common Street and the Red Mill hearings to the evening of September 8th at 7:55.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Okay.
Great.
Neil,
Yes.
Mike,
Aye.
Noel,
Aye.
and in a very unusual situation, I will vote because we need We need 4 members, so I vote aye.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. We'll see you on the 8th.
For sure.
Great.
Okay.
Did you leave the coal stove on, Cliff?
Oh, there's no AC in this office.
Do you have a fan? I mean, we're all your
I have
fans,
lots of
but that's not the
fans.
same.
I have lots of fans.
Yes, you do, but none of them are standing there going, you know.
Matt, I did not mean to slight you on that. Your input was very valuable.
Not at all.
And I think that, you know, in spite of the fact that there were some very contentious moments, the final product is something that I'll sign my name to.
I hope I didn't stir any pots with comments in this round. So, you know, the commission should, you know, I don't
Look
know,
at it.
take them with a grain of salt, maybe. It's been a long week.
It's been a long week, and Matt is wiped out by Wednesday, having just come off a vacation. So you know it's really bad when your vacation doesn't last more than 1 or 2 days and you get back to the office.
Oh man.
Oh well, it's just the heat. We're all suffering.
Well, we know what that's like because, you know, as a volunteer going on vacation, doing conservation work as a volunteer, you know. Okay, so we have a hearing coming up. I see that Margaret Bacon is present. The Bellingham Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing. Public hearings in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Bellingham Wetlands Protection Bylaw on the notice of intent for the proposed construction of the 30 by 36 addition onto an existing house located within a 100-foot buffer zone of bordering vegetated wetlands at Assessor's Map 75, Parcel 7A-1316, Buffy Road, Bellingham. Margaret Bacon, Civil Site Engineering, Uxbridge, Mass. has submitted the filing on behalf of Evan Piatti, 16 Buffy Road, Bellingham. The hearings will be held online via the Zoom option on Wednesday, August 11th at 8:45. We're right on time. Hi, Margaret.
How you doing there?
Warm.
Good evening. I'm here requesting a permit to construct an addition to an existing residential house there at 16 Buffy Road. Now, I did have some comments from Ann, and I did revise the plan, and I sent in a revised plan earlier today. I don't know if you've seen it or not. I can pull it up on the screen.
Would you put it up for us?
Sure. Can you see that okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so actually there were some questions regarding the wetland line, and I think my wetland line probably was a little too conservative. So over here, you can see the original wetland line. I went back out there and I reflagged it. So here it is in blue. And basically it's right along the shrub lawn interface. So I did adjust that. And then also I noticed Ann mentioned too about an older plan on record where there should have been a split rail fence installed, I guess, when they previously built this house back in 2000. So I also included that on the revised plan. So basically my client there, the Piattis, they'd like to build this addition. They have a special needs daughter, and this is basically the intent of this is so they can better take care of her. So it's an existing 4-bedroom house, and it's going to stay a 4-bedroom house. And that's what the existing septic system is, so that's not going to change at all. And then the driveway, if you look at this plan here, the driveway is going to be straight in. So there will be no turnaround. So the net impervious area really is not going to change much, because right here, this is all existing pavement. And if you look up here at this profile here, you're going to see that the driveway is going to be a drive under, where the cars are going to just drive straight into the garage with the living space up above. So here's the proposed addition right over the existing pavement. That turnaround will be eliminated.
So Margaret, that little turnaround area, that's going to be removed and loamed and seeded?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Is there any proposed grading around there, Margaret?
Not really. That they're going to grade right up to the foundation in the back there, and then, like I said, right in here, it's just a drive straight in. I do have a picture over here on the plan, just to kind of get a visual of what it's going to look like. And the red square is roughly the kind of an estimate of the proposed addition.
And so what happens is there is there's a turnaround there.
That's correct.
And so the area that extends beyond the new footprint will be removed, loamed and seeded.
Correct.
Is there a net gain or reduction in the total amount of building versus driveway? You gain one, you lose the other. That is within 25 feet of the wetlands line there?
I didn't do the calculations, but just by looks, that's probably pretty close to a wash. This will be eliminated. And then here obviously is going to be the new impervious area right here, and then right over here within that 25-foot buffer zone.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So you're showing sediment erosion control. What are you proposing to use there?
The straw wattles.
Oh, yeah, okay.
12-inch, yeah.
12-inch, okay.
12-inch erosion control sock. I guess that could be the mulch or the wattles. Does it come?
The mulch holds to the contour of the ground a little better?
The mulch sock does, correct.
Okay. You know, what we find sometimes is with the smaller tubes, people put a stake in every 15 feet and they think it's going to hold. There's not a whole lot of excavation going on here, but you will be tearing up that driveway. So, and it is pretty proximate to the resource area.
Yeah, so right here I have the 12-inch erosion control sock, which, like I say, I can require it to be the mulch sock, which, like you say, that it's a lot heftier than the straw wattles.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea.
Okay.
So we'll go with the mulch. I think Ian told me she would like to get back out there and take a look at your wetland line.
That's fine.
But in the meantime,
yep.
Does the commission have any other questions?
I mean, is it possible to reduce the size of the addition slightly to get more of it out of the 25?
Well, actually, they've already pretty much have it all done by an architect. So.
Well, that's not.
Right.
Not part of our discussion.
No, but I don't think at this point they would like to do that. I mean, if there's
Well, I mean, that's
another type of.
neither here nor there. I was just asking the question.
Right.
It's all lawn. I guess should have said that the lawn goes right to the edge of the wetland.
That's correct, and that's where I revised the wetland flags there. It's right there at the end of the lawn, right there along the lawn brush interface. I think years ago, you can tell I did some soil augers in there, and you can see a lot of sand in there. So there was some type of fill years ago.
Yeah, we wrote the permit, and the 25-foot no disturb zone was a policy, wasn't a regulation. So this was a LaRusso project, and he adhered to the 25-foot zone when it was convenient and didn't when it wasn't. So this is what we're looking at now, but the whole area is grassed. So
How much around back is grassed in to the tree line, the green shaded area or the green wiggly area?
Yeah, this is all lawn right here.
it's a good sized yard.
And the grading looks like it drops pretty steeply away from the house, then levels off to the swing set areas, pretty much.
Swing set in the septic area, correct?
Yeah, right. Mr. Chair, hearing what the vice chair has said, I kind of wonder, is there anything, if you've seen the site or if Margaret has a suggestion, that instead of maybe reducing the footprint of this building, that in recognition of the fact they're going more into an area that is regulated, that as a balance, sort of an effect to try to balance, is there anything else around the perimeter of their property which is degraded environmentally that they could enhance perhaps at a minor cost, which improves the wetlands resources on one side or the other? I know wetlands is primarily on the left side as we're looking at the plans now, but anywhere around the perimeter of the property, I don't know if there's an area that's eroding out or could use some blueberry bushes or something like that. I'm thinking as a means of sort of trading off a little bit of recognition that this would be, an exception to what we'd like to see happen, which is stay out of the 25-foot.
Well, maybe what we could do is we could ask for some supplemental plantings, some blueberries along the back of the house, along the wetland line there. Yeah, somewhere like right on the upland side, right along there. Yeah.
Yeah, or actually right along the fence line.
Could do something like that.
We could even take some of that bow out of the fence line.
I'm sorry, take some what?
Maybe
Take
right.
some of that angle out. Straighten that out more.
Sure. And it had some additional shrubs right there. Blueberries are.
Yeah, something from that angle point near the front corner of the proposed addition and run it more directly towards the end of the line. You know what I mean? Kind of from there. Yeah, something like, something on that line.
I'm sure they'd be agreeable to that.
Okay.
And that gets us a little bit more softening of that side and gains a little bit on that side to make up for the encroachment into the 25.
Okay. So, Margaret, how long will it take you to make the changes on the plan? Because we'll ask you to make the change on the fence, show drawing some plants there.
Yeah.
And change the sediment erosion control.
Yeah.
That won't take long, right?
I can have it to you by the beginning of next week.
Okay,
But that-
good. So here's what I'm going to suggest. Ian will go out there and take a look at that again.
Yeah.
And if the wetland line's good, we'll continue the hearing, but we'll draft up the permit and have it ready for signature at our next meeting.
Okay.
Does that sound good?
Fair.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
No, I'm gonna change the erosion control. I'm gonna straighten out that this fence line right here, add some shrubs, and that should cover it, correct?
Should do it.
Okay, sounds good.
All righty. I'll entertain a motion to continue the hearing to the evening of Wednesday, August 25th at 8:45.
All moved.
Mr. Chairman, I thought that was, didn't we push the other one off to the 8th because the 25th was full?
Well, we were anticipating, we held a spot for this one, and we have another new one
Oh,
after
okay.
this.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Well,
I was the first.
all in
Need a
favor?
second still.
Neil.
It hasn't been seconded.
I second.
Oh, okay. Aye.
So Neil,
Yes.
Mike,
Yes.
Mary Ann,
Aye.
Noel.
Aye.
Okay, unanimous vote.
Okay, thank you, board.
Thank you very much.
See you in a couple.
Yep. All right. Well, we're a couple minutes ahead of schedule here. I know Frank has been waiting with bated breath for 455 Hartford Avenue. So the applicant has requested a continuation.
Again?
There's a new engineer of record. He is no longer working with Gary and Howland. And so we're going to find out. There's going to be a new engineer, a new boy in town. So
That's quite a few extensions.
I'm sorry.
That's quite a few continuances.
And you know, this is what makes it so difficult for us, because we schedule meetings and the new trend seems to be to use that meeting as a placeholder. You may not be ready and you may not think you're going to be ready, but you say, yeah, we're going to keep that time and we'll let you know if it doesn't work. And the day of the hearing, you get a phone call or an email saying, we want a continuation. So anyway, they've requested a continuation to the second meeting in September. So, okay. You know, it seemed to me that we were getting pretty close with that. I mean, the big issue was snow storage.
There were a couple of other items, but yeah, I mean, a lot of the items have been addressed. Some of the items, and since there's a peer review letter we just submitted, so this is public record. Some of the way they were going to be addressing, like in the back, they have a fence that's, I think it's partway down the 3-to-1 slope. So not necessarily a conservation commission per se, but having berm and trees at the top of the hill, and then having something that's a fence, you know, sort of partway down the hill, and it was probably down 2 to 3 feet vertically. That was a little strange. There was not enough room to put at the top of the hill, only because they had like 3 feet for the trees. So there were some items like that that we noticed in the peer review and stuff like that we sent in. Some things had not changed. I'll give away a question that we have for maybe the future engineer. We can't figure out for the life of us why they're very tight on their infiltration basins, and they have huge, absolutely huge forebays. The forebays are as big as the basin.
Wow.
Now, maybe there was maybe they had a design, and that's perfectly fine. That's not our issue to challenge that, but.
A smaller forebay and a larger, more storage capacity would be. Okay.
One would think, but anyways, we didn't put that in any of our
guy
reviews.
says. Or the new woman.
Hopefully.
All right, so that being the case, I'll entertain a motion to continue the 455 Hartford Avenue hearing to the evening of September 22nd at 7.
Would you rather make it October, Mr. Chair, since they don't seem to mind deferring things and pushing them back? Does that work better for our schedule?
Right now it does.
All right, then I'll recommend we move back to
Yep.
September.
Yep.
I mean, October. I mean, if that works better for us, I feel no rush to proceed with this, with all these extensions, and they
You know what?
may need the time to get their act together. I mean, getting a new engineer on board.
Well, we can't get involved in the dynamic between an applicant and their representative.
Right, I understand
Can-
that.
We know that.
Can we schedule them for 5 minutes and then continue them to the end of the meeting if they don't show?
We could do that. We can do that.
Just give them 5 minutes, and if they can't wrap it up in 5 minutes, we'll have to continue to the end of the meeting.
New engineer says, holy mackerel, first of all, engineering companies are very busy. I mean, there's no guarantee that whoever this firm is going to say, yeah, okay, we're going to pick this up and go right at it. You're right, there may be a delay. So we'll use that as a strategy.
Yeah, you get 5 minutes,
Yep,
and then we continue to the end of the meeting.
okay.
That sound fair to everybody?
If needed, if we don't even need to, then we don't.
Well, we wouldn't, if they didn't show, we wouldn't have to continue it.
Or they want a continuance, right? Yeah, right, exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, that's good to me.
If they show, they're gonna need more than 5 minutes, so.
Absolutely. But they can wait for us.
Yep.
All right. That being the case, I'll entertain a motion to continue the 455 to September 22nd at 7 and for 5 minutes.
So moved.
Second,
Discussion, all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
do you need a poll?
Okay.
Ariane says aye.
No, I heard the ayes. I heard it. It's four yes. It's unanimous vote. Okay. Only one more thing to do. Minutes.
We only have 2 meetings, correct, Amy?
23rd and 7th.
Okay,
We do have just 2.
okay. I'm trying to get my Word document up, hang on. Come on.
I have to get my copies so I can make the notations. Okay.
Hang on.
I just want to say that the way Mike is sitting, it looks like he's in the swing.
Doesn't it?
Doesn't it? I kind of wish I was. Although that doesn't mean I'm a swinger. Okay, so I have a couple real quickies, little ones. June 23rd.
Yep.
Page number 2.
Yep.
First, second paragraph. It was explained, but last sentence, it was explained by the applicant representative that the parking lot will be at its location and will not be getting any closer to the wetland. And it's, I guess there were 2 parts to that I wondered. One was the parking lot will be remaining at its location.
Probably.
At its current location?
It will remain at its location.
So its current location and will not be getting closer to the wetland. Okay.
Right.
So I have the word 2. Okay, great. And then a Butter Wade who keeps coming back to these meetings. I don't get it. He can't stay away from us. 2 paragraphs down, Butter Wade communicated his concern about the snow storage area and the salt and possible fuels which could run into the wetland resource area. It was communicated there will be fencing around this area with clear demarcation, maybe? Yes? Or this fencing around this area which will clearly demarcate the area? I don't know exactly how we want to.
Fencing around the area.
That sounds good.
With clear demarcation.
Okay. I believe that was, yep, that was it for that one. And real quickly, unless somebody has something else, July 7th, page number 1, 2, 3, page number 3, the end of the first big paragraph there. The commission was informed that the planning board will be considering a draft decision for the August 12th, 2021 meeting. I believe that is tomorrow. So I think we wanted August 11th for that line and then the line below that. In the motion, we did vote for the right day, which is August 11th. So just want to change the 12th to the 11th, I think, to be consistent.
Excellent. Thank you, Mike. Great.
Sure. And then the last thing was, at the bottom of that page, last paragraph, the Dunkin' Donuts property, associated parking, the third sentence, third line, basins and the surrounding undeveloped land, maybe. Otherwise, I'm all set. Thank you very much, Amy.
Very good. Thank you, Mike.
You bet. Thanks.
Okay. Motion to accept both minutes as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Amy.
Aye.
Thank you, Amy.
No problem.
So we have a site walk. We'll be doing a field evaluation. It's we'll be out in the woods. It'll be a good one. And so we have some items to sign. I'll bring them with us. Our vice chair will not be present. He'll be cooling his heels in Maine. But we have a certificate of compliance for the golf course, Bungay Brook. They're going to be transferring the title and they need a certificate of compliance. And the shores at Silver Lake, there are 3 different orders that relate to utility work that took place on their project, but was not part of a development. And the first one, 105-48. Yeah, that's before all your times.
I guess.
Yep. 105-85 and 105-786, all relating to sewer line work, Douglas Drive. And, you know, the work is all done. And in fact, the pumping station that was put in was pumping out to South Main Street and up the hill to Medway. And now what it's doing, they changed all of that with the Lakeview Estates, and it's all gravity going down to the bottom at Dupree Road and pumping it up Cross Street. So we'll be signing those. Just wanted to remind everybody. And I did get an email today from Brian. Brian says he's going to try to be there Saturday.
Okay.
So that'd be awesome. All right.
Early morning thunderstorms predicted for Saturday, just FYI.
Yeah, well, I hope she doesn't try to cancel again. The last time she canceled because she was afraid to go out in the rain with us. She was afraid we would move the wetland line.
I thought it was because it was a tropical storm warning. Okay.
The first time we did the delineation, it was a full-blown hurricane.
See, well, tropical storm's not as bad. Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
It was awesome. Okay. Thank you, Frank.
All righty, you take care, folks.
Appreciate it.
Hi, Frank.
Ladies
see
and
you
gentlemen,
next week.
thank you.
Have a great night.
Thanks, bye now.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. It's a unanimous vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Noel, I think all I do now is just stop the recording.
Yes, and then it'll pop up on your screen to save it.
It's automatically saved to my hard drive, but now I can't find it.
I believe in your files, it'll show up in a zip folder.
Right. No, that I can find that. I'm trying to see. Oh, there it is, recording. Stop.